Hey everyone, this is Julie Quinn here, and I want to talk to you a little bit about writing the executive summary. So I figured a video would be good because then I can show you some examples. This is a link, and I'll provide the link at the bottom of the discussion post, but this is a link to the Effective Writing Center's writing the executive summary. And depending on the courses you've taken at UMGC, you'll maybe have had exposure to executive summaries, maybe you haven't, but I thought that I would do this overview with you. Just to help you, and there's going to be reading in the week for it, but sometimes it's nice to hear somebody talk about it with different examples than maybe the examples you were already given. Okay, so executive summary is a brief document, and I've actually been looking at the student drafts for writing assignment 4, and I've been leaving a lot of similar feedback on this for those for your classmates. The idea is that executive summary is usually 10%-ish or even slightly less of the size of the entirety of your document. So you don't want your executive summary to be overburdened with text, but you do want to highlight aspects of the white paper that you're doing. Purpose of the white paper, what is the problem that you're exploring, what are the methods of analyzing the problem, and we'll talk about that one in a second, results and recommendations. So think about this document not as a doubled introduction, because of course the white paper itself has its own introduction, but that it is in miniature, has all of the features of the essay itself, because you're going to have some executives that will not read your white paper, but that will only read the executive summary. You want it to be, oh yeah, here it is, proportional with 10% of the length. I knew that was somewhere. It's a standalone document. So what that means is if somebody reads it, they should get a sense of the entirety of your writing, but not in the depth of detail that the white paper will have, okay? And that it's flawless, that there are no grammar errors, no typographical strangeness, to the format or anything like that, that it's just slick and smooth and to the point. So in this example of the executive summary, it's about City of Savannah and a recycling program, okay? So you'll notice that the purpose of the report is a first section. This is actually quite small executive summary with just a couple of brief sentences. Yours can be slightly longer than this example, but this example will visually show you what it can look like. I'm a particular fan of the headers within it because that allows somebody to hop around and find what they need. Okay, so purpose of the report is something that you can bundle the purpose and the problem into that first section. The purpose is to highlight a problem, right? We're going to talk about this problem with the City of Savannah's recycling program. And we're going to talk about steps on how to adjust it. You'll notice that bullets and number lists appear in a executive summary, no problem. It's mostly prose, which means it's mostly paragraphing. But bullets mean a non-sequential list, and numbers mean a sequential list usually. So keep that in mind. If you have 2 sets of bullets, fine. 2 sets of numbers, fine. But my understanding, if you use a number list, is that number 1 must happen before number 2. That's a technical writing staple. Okay. So the purpose of the report highlights the problem or the issue that you're exploring, what research questions maybe you are asking. Now, the difference between the methods and what you do in advanced technical writing in this class is that you're not creating questionnaires yourself. You're not doing primary research. And the difference between primary and secondary research in a nutshell is primary research is what we find in the OneSearch library database. The peer-reviewed academic journal articles, the experts in the field are doing the research, and then whether they're doing a lab experiment, they're doing meta-analyses or something else, and then they publish their findings. So whether you find it through a OneSearch, the database searching, or information on the web in a trade magazine, that's secondary research. So what I would call this section, if I were you, instead of calling it methods, I would call it literature review. Because you're reviewing the literature of the field, whether it's through a field magazine, hopefully you're also adding in field journals. So you're not going to have questionnaires, surveys, participant observation, none of that. You're going to relay the data that you found that was gathered by other, please keep this in mind, experts. I pay a lot of attention to the quality of the sources that students use, and this will be really interesting a nice paragraph that research was done in academic library databases from, like, say you're doing an IT paper, from Cisco's website, from leading company data like Apple and Microsoft, that, the research that they have published, you've gathered, and you're doing analysis of all of the research that was done by other experts. That's what this section is. I would call this literature review. And then the findings and conclusions. Not every single piece of data belongs here, but the most important ones. I always tell my Writing 112 students to do something called writing around the data, and I would recommend that you do the same. Through your research, you're finding really important bits of data that you want to share in your white paper. Highlight 2 or 3 of the most important pieces of data and put it in your findings and conclusions. Okay, so, even if your number list isn't a sequential list, it could be like a priority list as well. So that may be the reason why we see the number list here. The results and recommendations. This looks like this is probably what's part of your conclusion. If you look at the essay rubric and and use the essay rubric as a checklist, there's 2 parts of the conclusions. It's thinking about the new findings by reflecting on the prior approaches, and then what are the recommendations made. So this executive summary has 4 sections. So purpose of the report, methods, findings and conclusions, and then the recommendations. It's still mostly prose, although there are some bullet lists, and I think this is easily digestible. This will make your executive summary pop. And remember, your executive summary is not a document that's easy to write at the beginning of the process. And for those of you that have already submitted a draft, which you should have done on Tuesday night, right? And I'm recording this on Friday. You will have had a full draft, which then makes it easier to write the executive summary after the full draft is there, so you can data mine your paper, figure out what details are most important, figure out your methodology, which is generally for most of you a literature review, and make sure that you're including the important components. Writing the executive summary first without having written the entirety of the essay is going to be quite hard. So this is what I think would be really effective for you to follow. Of course, I bumped my font up really big, but let me show it to you almost all together on the screen so you can see it. I'm going to include the link in the end of my pinned post discussion. And this would be something that if you're struggling and you've never attempted an executive summary before, reach out. This would make a perfect conference call for us to have next week. Okay. And note as well that this little information, this bold information here on the right-hand side is not actually part of the executive summary. In this example, it's like a bubble comments with explanations of what's happening. So this left 2/3 is actually the entirety of the executive summary. So I hope that's helpful for you. Reach out if you have any questions for me. And of course, remember, there's more than one way to do an executive summary, but I really like the headers. I think it helps a reader navigate a technical document more smoothly. I like that it's not overdone. With text, I don't want to see a wall of text on an executive summary. And you don't want the executive summary for this type of assignment to go beyond a manuscript page. Maybe 1.25 pages at the most. But then don't start your paper on that next page. Do a page break. And the paper itself is a separate document. It starts on its own fresh page. Even if your executive summary goes just a little bit longer. Reach out if you have any questions. Look forward to talking to you.